The Clos du Val Napa Valley Cabernet Sauvignon 2021 will be the.
Yes!
That's the second one.
Yes! All right, man!
Yes, sir.
各位朋友，大家好，欢迎陪我威爸一起来喝果汁。今天非常的兴奋，因为呢，请到了是很知名的一个 Napa Valley 的一个酒厂 Clos du Val 的第三代，然后由他现在来直接掌管跟经营这个酒厂。那这酒厂叫 Clos du Val。讲到这个酒厂呢，其实呢，我很有感觉，因为我们的第一批代理的酒在1987年开始，其中一个就是 Clos du Val， 但是从那个时候到现在呢，已经有非常多的变化。我们有很多的酒厂，像 Heights Cellars， 像 Staxley Wine Cellars， 还有像 Silverado，OK， 甚至于连 Robert Mondavi 都被卖掉了。所以呢，这些非常经典的好的酒厂呢，在家族经营越来越少了。可是 Clos du Val 还是由家族经营，而且呢，它可以算说是他们家族里面第一个每一天双手去介入到经营跟每一天的管理，所以是很特别的一件事情。那今天呢，我们就来听听呢 Olav 呢，也是他们第三代如何去经营这个酒厂。那为什么他要回来？还有 Clos du Val 非常有名是在于他在1976年的巴黎盲评，他们既然打败了5大酒庄，由他来跟大家分享。Hi Olav, welcome to Taipei.
Thank you, Will.
Well, I was actually just telling the fans and our friends that about how there's a lot of changes over the past 20-30 years in Napa Valley. A lot of premium wineries got sold, and how it's very precious that you actually came back and then start being the family of the founder, which is your grandfather, and being very hands-on. And also Clos du Val is one of the few first brands that we start promoting and introducing in Taiwan. So can you kind of give our fans a quick summary about the history and how it all got started, Clos du Val?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So Clos du Val started back in 1972, was our first vintage. But the story of Clos du Val really started in 1969 when my grandfather, John Goelet, his mother's family were originally from Bordeaux. They were in the wine merchant business in Bordeaux, dating back to the late 1700s. And he was spending time there trying to figure out where and how he was going to start his own wine project. And in 1969, he was introduced to a young winemaker who grew up in Bordeaux named Bernard Portet. And the two of them became fast friends and then decided to go on an adventure to seek and find a place outside of Bordeaux, outside of Europe, where you could make world-class Bordeaux varietal wine. And that journey began obviously in Bordeaux. They traveled to Australia, South America, both Chile and Argentina. They spent quite a bit of time in South Africa and then in California, where they ultimately picked a spot which we now know today as Stag's Leap District in Napa Valley.
Oh wow! So your grandfather and your father, they never really managed the winery hands-on day to day.
No, so when Clos du Val started, Bernard became the winemaker and the general manager.
Yes.
My grandfather had a number of entrepreneurial projects that he started in his lifetime. I think one thing that was always consistent was he had the vision, but he was always looking for the right partner to help operate, because that wasn't his background. And so Bernard really carried that torch for the better part of 35 years. So with my generation taking over the ownership, it gave us an opportunity to think a little differently on how we wanted to manage the business.
That's very good. Actually, it's very precious, and I think it's, especially at this age, it's a very good thing that you decided to take over and manage it. So Olav, why is it called Clos du Val?
Clos du Val is French for the pocket within the valley, or the small vineyard within the valley. When Bernard, the founding winemaker, and my grandfather John, when they identified the site that they wanted to purchase and start this winery, they saw that it sat in this area within the valley that really felt like its own little pocket within the valley. If you've been to the Stags Leap District appellation within Napa Valley, you notice that there is the Palisades, which is really were formed from volcanic rock, creates this almost a hook into the valley, and so it creates this artificial pocket. And so when they saw this place, as two men from France, they went first to the mother tongue, and that's what came out.
Oh wow! So you're like French origin.
Yes, obviously Bernard grew up, both parents were French. My grandfather, his mother was French, his father was American, both French roots.
I think that you're very familiar with Clos du Val really became renowned and well known because of a Paris blind tasting that happened in 1976. And can you tell us a little bit about it in your perspective? How it got selected? How did Steven Spurrier, just picked Clos du Val instead of hundreds of different wineries?
The perspective I have is through stories. I was not alive in 1976, but what I can share through stories from my grandfather and Bernard. This gentleman, Steven Spurrier, he had been spending time in California, and in particular in Napa Valley in the early 70s. And what he was pleasantly surprised by was, here was this valley that was quite diverse from an agricultural standpoint. So you had wineries that were popping up in the valley, and there was certainly wine that had been made in the valley for the better part of 100 years. But there was all kinds of other agricultural activity going on at the time. But what he found when he was spending time there in 74, 75, and then leading up into this tasting, was there were a few wineries, a few operations there where he was really starting to see that there was great caliber wine. And it intrigued him so much so that he wanted to see how these wines would showcase against some of the most renowned wines in the world, which at that time, Bordeaux was really the top of the echelon. And I think his selection of the wines that he wanted to bring into the competition, I think it really happened organically. He was traveling around getting to know these winemakers and these farmers. And Bernard shared his story the first time he met Steven Spurrier, where this gentleman just showed up in his car, drove into the driveway and knocked on the door, and Bernard was in the cellar. This was sometime in the February, March time frame, so his harvest had finished, and the wines were in barrels, and they were working on preparing the prior vintage to go through its further aging. And this gentleman just knocked on the door and just wanted to have a chat and see what they was all about. And I think that, to me, that's just a fun example of what this industry was like in its infancy. So Clos du Val had the opportunity to be one of the 8 red wines selected from California. It was a great opportunity for us to participate in something that really became a defining moment for Napa Valley, and I think really the new world of wine.
That really opened the eyes up to the world about Napa Valley, and really brought Napa to the same level as Bordeaux at that time. And something really interesting, in 30 years later, I think the French weren't that happy when Napa got the first place, right, for the blind tasting. But it wasn't, I think second or third places are still French wineries.
Correct.
It's just the first place was Napa, and then there were rumors from my readings and recollection that the French wineries were saying that the Napas cannot age. It's, there's a lot of, it's bubble gum, it's this and that. But Steven Spurrier did it once again with the same exact vintage, same exact wine, but 30 years later. And do you know what happened?
So
in 2006.
So they've had a few, but so in the rematch, and I think the French winemakers, they wanted to see wines of exceptional quality, they believe will improve with time. And so that was really the testament. The greatest wines in the world, they age elegantly. And we were fortunate enough to have a very French approach and philosophy to winemaking. And so in that rematch, Clos du Val took first place.
That's amazing. Not only Clos du Val became first place, but second, third, fourth, and fifth are all Napa wines. So it actually proves that not only Napa wines are very approachable and favorable when they're young, but they can age gracefully and incredibly and become very complex and different aromas when they age. So that's amazing. Well, I think that's very interesting. If any of the fans haven't tried Clos du Val, you should really try it. It's really amazing. But if I don't remember incorrectly, your grandfather and Bernard Porter chose Stag Leap. But at that time, there were, only 2 wineries there? Out of the 6 in Napa?
There were close to 20 wineries in Napa Valley.
Okay.
And Stag's Leap Wine Cellars was established.
Yeah.
And Stag's Leap Winery was established shortly after us.
Okay.
There wasn't a lot of wineries in that area at that time. The vineyard the property that we took on and then eventually planted vines and turned it into a vineyard was a combination of a cattle farm, prune orchards, and walnuts. And that was quite common in Napa Valley in the 70s. There was a lot of tree nut farming activity. There were prunes, apple orchards, pear orchards. Not as much cattle and sheep. I think that was still predominantly in Sonoma, where there was just more area for grazing, larger tracts and parcels. But yeah, by the turn of the decade into the 80s, following the judgment of Paris and what really launched Napa Valley onto the scene of an area in the world where you can make world-class wines, that acreage very quickly started shifting all over to grapes.
What is the significance of, or the uniqueness of Stag's Leap, or differences versus the other subregions?
So as I talked about briefly in the topography, so the Stag's Leap appellation is one of the smaller appellations in Napa Valley. So it's just over 1,200 acres of vines. So it's quite a small area. It sits on I would say the southern quartile of the valley, so it's quite a bit further south, so it is much closer to the mouth of, or the base of San Pablo Bay. Mm-hmm. So you get a lot of coastal marine influence.
It's colder. It's cooler.
So it's cooler. So on the east slope of the valley, which is where the Stag's Leap AVA sits into the foothills of that, is volcanic. So you have a lot of volcanic rock and ash influence in the soils. And there is this durapan which flows through, which over hundreds and thousands of years slides down in, and so you get a very complex soil structure within the Stag's Leap area. Okay. So combination of obviously volcanic rock and ash, you get some clay loam, so that adds its complexity, and then as you mentioned the climate, the temperature, so we get certainly cooler evenings. So when the sun goes down, the temperature drops dramatically and quite quickly, and then when the fog rolls in the late summer and into the fall, because you have this pocket that's created, the fog rolls in and it gets stuck, and so it takes longer for it to burn off in the morning. Basically, you get a longer period where the grape can recharge as it's going through its maturation point towards harvest.
I didn't know.
So you get slightly more, I think, balanced fruit where you're holding on to the acidity within the fruit, which is great and important both for flavor but also for ageability. But you also then get great tannin development. You get that soft tannin structure, but still are able to produce fruit that has great flavor and intensity. So it's a sort of a beautiful sort of harmony between the different elements that you're trying to capture. And I think that's one of the reasons why Bernard was so excited about this place. He felt California's warmer than he ever experienced in Bordeaux, but in this area at least you get these cool nights.
Well, yeah, I mean, Stag's Leap is the iconic, one of the first few iconic AVA areas. So I think it's familiar to the wine lovers here in Taiwan, this district. And do you know how many wineries are there now in Stag's Leap?
I should know this off the top of my head. I want to say there's around 16.
Oh, so very few.
Yeah.
Still very few.
And in Napa Valley today, there's around 650.
Wow. So it went all the way from 21 when your grandfather started, and now 650. But Stag's Leap still remain quite exclusive. So right now it's about only 16 wineries. Why did you decide to come back? I mean, I just told our fans at the very beginning that officially you're the first family members to be hands-on on a day-to-day management of winery, right? Which is great. We're all very excited about it. And you do have a very big responsibility on you. And I'm sure a lot of markets, a lot of people that love Clos du Val expecting and excited to wait for what to come in the future. But what brought you back?
So I think there are a couple things. One, I have since the beginning of my professional career have felt the importance of privately owned, the owner-operator mentality. I think it brings a certain mindset and culture to your organization where as an owner you really can show the dedication and the passion and the caring. So I think that is something that before I took on this job, I used to work for a gentleman who had started and built his own company, and I felt what a positive influence and impact that gave me as an employee, someone who I was working for, who was there side by side every day, helping drive the business forward. And then I think the second thing so that was for me from a personal standpoint, and I think my siblings and cousins, we all agreed the same thing, that if we're going to steward this for the next generation forward, we should have that kind of approach. Because that's something that I think Clos du Val struggled with a little bit as my grandfather got older. There wasn't always a very clear alignment between the management and the owner. So I think if you have an owner or a representation of the owner who is very engaged, you ensure that you have good alignment. I think the next thing, as we looked at not just the business but the industry, this is an industry that works in decades, not in quarters or years. Yeah. And so you're making decisions, whether they're financial investment decisions or choices from product philosophy, brand, that really are 20, 30-year decisions. And so if we were going to continue to own this business, we should have that. And there's no better person to lead that than someone from the family. So as a group of shareholders, we agreed if we're gonna carry this legacy on for another 50 years, it should be one of us who's doing it. Or else it's better which I think you've seen not just in Napa Valley, but other places in the wine industry, and I think this happens across industries, family-owned businesses, every time you go through a generational change, there's a challenge to say, we're going to go for another cycle. And I think we're fortunate that we were very aligned in how we were thinking about it.
That's very good. It's very good. I think you made the right decisions, and we're excited to see how you'll lead Clos du Val in the next decades, many decades. That's good. Okay, now we're gonna do a little fun exercise that we will be trying the Paris 1976 blind tasting by Steven Spirit, but in a very mini version. Okay, so let's go.
Exciting.
Great. Okay, so Olav, as I was just explaining, 3 wines. The first tier is to pick out which one we believe is Clos du Val.
Okay.
Second tier is the other 2 wines that we didn't pick out. Where are they from and what grape varietal?
You can pick the first one. You can just to taste it, smell it, and then describe what do you think.
Okay. Okay.
All right.
You're done? That was quick.
No, I'm between 2.
Yeah, me too. I need a little time. 各位朋友，这是真的，我完全不知道，他也是，所以我们需要花比较多的时间，不容易，不容易。这也就代表克罗邦酿的酒有多好，这真的很难。
Okay.
Go ahead. You got the.
I think it's number 2.
Me too.
Yeah.
I think it's number 2.
Can you tell why?
Please.
You get good, fresh fruit aromatics. You get both red and some blue fruit notes on the nose. I think the palate as well. There's good acidity to it, so there's some mouth wateringness to it without it being overly acidic. It does have some good depth and complexity, and it's got a nice long finish. And I think more than anything, the aromatics and the mouthfeel is what makes me think it's Clos du Val. Whereas I think 3 is a little bit more earthy, more red in character. I would guess that this is probably Old World Bordeaux. Not quite sure. I think this one is probably also a New World wine. This has a little bit more oak on it.
I'm also 2. And then I mean, 1 is very obvious. So I had 1 and I just put it aside because I know that's not Clos du Val. But 2 and 3 was so difficult to choose because what ticks it off is that green earth, exactly, that green earthy aroma. After I swirl it for like 5 minutes, then this kind of aroma, came out. And even though it's so, 2 is still very old world to me, but however, the fruitiness of the wine kind of showed a little bit more. So that's why I also choose 2.
Okay, so I will announce the answer for the first round of the blind tasting. So the Clos du Val Napa Valley Cabernet Sauvignon 2021 will be the second.
Yes!
That's the second one.
Yes! All right, man.
Yes, sir.
So the next round will be a guess. The rest of 2 wines are the region and apparently the blend, the variety are all Bordeaux. You can tell the winery if you want.
No, no, that only happens in comic books and movies.
I think this is a Bordeaux wine.
Yeah.
I think it is predominantly Cabernet Sauvignon.
Yeah.
I feel that in the structure, it's quite a linear wine. There's not a lot of roundness. This wine is perplexing me a little bit, but I think this is a California wine as well, probably. It's my guess, or I'm having a harder time with this one.
Yeah, me too. I agree with Olav that I believe 3 is a Bordeaux wine. I can't really distinguish if it's left or right bank, but with the tannin structures, it's probably more than, I would guess it's probably more than left than the right. I mean, I could be wrong, but with 1, I think I have a little lead than you because this seems more, even though it's very un-Chilean, but
Chilean?
Yeah, because recently Erasmus, which we carry, and Eduardo, they've been trying to make wines that are very, very un-Chilean in a way, higher in acidity. So I would guess this is from Chile, but not a typical Chilean wine, but more like a Erasmus type where it's less robust and less sweet and fruity. It's high in acidity. Right?
Yeah, but it's an elegant wine.
It's very elegant, and that's what I think they're trying to do. To be very honest, I don't know, but I do have a heads. If I'm correct, that is because we drink it all the, not all the time, but we've tasted it before.
Yeah, let's hear.
Yeah,
I'm
let's hear it.
curious.
Wow, so both of you are really professional. You are right on the track. So apparently the second one will be is Clos du Val.
So we're right.
Yeah, you're right. And the first one, like a well-known, will be a little bit cheap because this is the brand we carry. So it's a Chile wine called Erasmus.
Yes.
Well done.
I know, but
You must have had it for dinner last night.
No, I didn't because. Okay, really? I'm right?
Yeah, and this is the Erasmus, the flagship wine is a Don Max Panel.
Oh yeah, this is $100 wine.
And is it Is it predominantly Cabernet Sauvignon?
Yeah,
Yes.
100%?
No, it's a blend.
No.
but it's like 90 something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the number 3.
And the third one is from Bordeaux.
Okay, so we're right.
Exactly, and it's from Redbank. It's Pomerol.
It's Pomerol.
It's Pomerol.
Yeah, it's Pomerol.
It's pretty powerful for Pomerol.
But the blending percentage is they use like a less Merlot, but it's still dominant Merlot. But they have a.
It is dominant Merlot.
Yeah, usually in Pomerol we have like a 70 or 80% Merlot. But in this shuttle they have like a Merlot Cabernet Sauvignon, the Cabernet Franc.
Cabernet Franc.
Wow.
And
So
what
you're
house?
right.
What house?
Yeah, it's Chateau Prince.
Oh, so plants.
Chateau
Plants from the Moix family.
Delicious.
It's good, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. But I have to say, Clos du Val. See, Clos du Val stands among the best. Okay, how you distinguish the other two?
The wine.
Again, I look for the fruit flavor intensity on the nose, the structure on the mouth, so whether it's the tannins, again, the acid, and then are there secondary and sort of tertiary notes that can kind of lead the palate into one direction from a geographic standpoint or another. So the first one, the Maximiano, perplexed me a little bit, and I think partly I haven't had a lot of Chilean wine.
But this is
Really
untypical.
No, it's very nice.
No, it's untypical Chilean wine. It's very elegant, whereas most Chilean wine, this price point, are very full body.
Full body and powerful. Yeah.
Powerful.
So I think a good challenge on these 3 wines. A good challenge.
Well, anyway, it's great. Choose your favorite wine. Mine is definitely number 2.
Thank
Cheers.
you, Will.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Cheers, everyone. 谢谢各位朋友，这个我可以以人格保证，完全没有作弊透露。OK， 所以很真实的。那当然，我们在品酒都已经评了很有经验了，那更不用讲说 Olav 还自己在做酒跟经营酒厂。所以呢，其实我们能猜到2，因为这个只是证实 Clos du Val 跟所有的世界顶级的酒都是坐在同一个平台上，而从现在开始 Olav 会带领 Clos du Val 走向未来的20年、30年，所以希望大家可以好好的再重新认识 Clos du Val， 它的重新定位，对它的变化跟它的这个整个的这个期待它的这个品质的维持跟提升，然后走出这一代新的一个思路。Thank you, Olav. This is a great experience.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for coming in. 谢谢大家。如果喜欢今天这一集，请订阅、分享、按赞。我是威爸，我们下次见。Cheers. Okay. Well, cheers again.
Cheers. Thank you.